For years, lawmakers in Utah and Idaho blocked Medicaid expansion, until it went on the ballot last November. Initiatives were approved in both states, but now state legislators are trying to add restrictions that would limit the gains made by Medicaid advocates. Utah lawmakers, worried that a sales tax increase might not fully cover costs, are rushing through a bill that would limit the expansion to people with incomes less than or equal to the poverty level, while in Idaho the legislature is mulling work requirements for the program. The New York Times, in Utah and Idaho, GOP looks to curb Medicaid expansions that voters approved. The voters of Utah and Idaho, two deeply Republican states, defied the will of their political leaders in November and voted to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. Now those leaders are striking back, moving to roll back the expansions, with encouragement, they say, from the Trump administration. Utah's ballot measure, approved with support from 53% of voters, would expand Medicaid to cover people with incomes up to 138% of the poverty level, up to about $16,750 a year for an individual, and pay the state's share with a small increase of the sales tax. Under the ballot initiative, 150,000 people are expected to gain coverage, starting April 1st. Pair, 2/4, The Hill, Utah Senate passes bill to scale back voter-approved Medicaid expansion. Republicans in the Utah State Senate on Monday passed a bill to roll back the Medicaid expansion that voters approved in November in a controversial move opposed by Democrats. The Senate voted 22-7, with all 6 Democrats and 1 Republican opposed, to pass a bill shrinking the Medicaid expansion to a smaller group. Sullivan, 2/4, CQ, Utah Senate passes Medicaid expansion. Repeal. The rare retreat on a state's expansion of Medicaid is unusual not only because it would bypass the voters' decision but also because the legislation would require a first-of-its-kind waiver from the federal government. Another curious aspect is that critics also say that the new, narrower program actually may cost more than the broader version Utah citizens backed, but the bill's supporters contend that is not true over the long term. The unconventional waiver could mark a new era in state experimentation in the federal state program. Rahman, 2/4. In other news on Medicaid, modern healthcare, North Carolina awards $6 billion in Medicaid contracts. AmeriHealth Caritas, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina, United Healthcare and WellCare Health Plan scored statewide contracts to serve North Carolina Medicaid beneficiaries under the state's new managed care program launching in November. Carolina Complete Health, a provider-led partnership between the North Carolina Medical Society and insurer Centene Corp., won a contract to serve beneficiaries in 2 regions. In total, the 5 Medicaid managed care contracts, which will last 3 years with the option to extend for an additional 2 years, are worth $6 billion per year. Livingston, 2/4. This is part of the KHN Morning Briefing, a summary of health policy coverage from major news organizations. Sign up for an email subscription.